For USCFootball.com, I'm Jack Smith alongside Connor Morrissette for instant analysis from USC's 50-49 win here over Cal in Berkeley. Connor, let's catch our breaths a little bit and try and recap this epic game. 110 meetings between Cal and USC, and in the 110th one, it's one of the best in the series history. I call it the barn burner in Berkeley on our radio call. Just what a wild game. Even though USC comes out with a 1-point win, it feels like, again, they exit the stadium with more questions than answers, and more questions even than after last week.
Definitely an entertaining game, and USC, for allowing over 500 yards and 49 points, they win it pretty much with a stop on defense. Jaylin Smith breaking up that 2-point conversion at the end. I was surprised Cal went for 2 there. I guess they didn't think that they could slow down Caleb Williams and the USC offense. They probably could have marched down and kicked the field goal, but that play surprised me a little bit. I don't know about you. We can get into that. Credit to the USC defense for getting that stop, but it's the exact same feeling I had after the Arizona game. Nice win. But is this performance good enough to beat the better teams on your schedule? I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, I think that they decided to go for 2. It's almost like that Utah formula that Cam Rising, Kyle Whittingham put on tape last year, where you feel like if you're going to beat USC, you beat their defense. You don't think that your defense can beat their offense, especially with the way that Caleb Williams, the running backs, the wide receivers were playing in the fourth quarter. This time it was just a nice play by Jaylin Smith to knock it out of the air. USC ends up coming away with the victory. They were able to slide around, run around, kneel it out, and Cal didn't touch the football again. There were a lot of crazy things that happened. Of course, almost 100 points put up. USC allowed nearly 550 yards to Cal, 49 points. The craziness that was the end of halftime. There was a protest before the game that almost, knocked the game all the way back to halftime. It was a crazy game where you had things that you had never seen before, but also a lot of things that we have seen before from USC, both offensively and defensively. They've been struggling all year to find their rhythm. They didn't exactly find it today, but as we mentioned, they do come out with a win.
You said crazy things happening. How about Cal not opting to fair catch a punt? I think you said it was either the 5th or 6th time all year they've done that, and then the guy fumbles, and USC turns it into a touchdown. I thought Cal, credit to USC for winning the game, but Cal kind of threw up on themselves a little bit down the stretch here. And, hey, if the other team gives you a chance to win and you take it, USC deserves credit for that. But, man, those turnovers at the end and the fact that Cal still had a chance to win the game at the end, maybe I'm just a pessimist and people won't want to hear this, but that was ugly. In the second half, except for that final drive, USC's defense did play a little bit better. Barry Alexander coming in helped slow down the run. Cal did have some injuries at their tailbacks, though, and that certainly contributed to them struggling to run the ball a little bit more as well, though. I don't know, Jack. It seemed like another moral loss, and I don't know how many USC can keep having with these. You play Washington, Oregon, and then UCLA. These performance levels just aren't good enough to beat those better teams. I think USC knows that. I don't think they really took a big step forward today, do you?
Absolutely not. I think they took another step backwards. And you're talking about Cal losing the game. They certainly did. They were up by 14 at one point. Then USC gets a score, and then they get a stop on defense. But then finally, it feels like the Cal defense figures out Caleb Williams in the second half. They get a stop. USC has to punt. And coming into that punt, Jeremiah Hunter had fair caught every punt of the day. He only had 4 punt returns for 6 yards all season. Cal as a team had only returned 4 punts. He decided, now's a good time, up by 7, inside my own red zone where I'm catching it to try and return it. It gets knocked out, I believe, by Jack Casante, the long snapper, who almost lost the game for USC against Arizona, so he gets a bounce-back play. Then USC scores again. There were just a bunch of fumbles in the fourth quarter where each team traded back-to-back. On back-to-back plays, I believe Mendoza fumbled, and then Caleb Williams fumbled. Cal just made a lot of mistakes. Defensively, they were not great in the second half. You can't return that punt with the history that you have on special teams and then fumble. It was just a very poor decision.
Thinking about who was like the player of the game in this one, I think it was Eric Gentry because he had the pick, he forced a fumble, but then he has that boneheaded 15-yard penalty in the fourth quarter. So I don't think, Jack, maybe Marshawn Lloyd, there's no one who you walk away being like, again, and this is the same exact thing I said against Arizona, like, okay, wow, this guy had a fantastic game. There were some nice moments, there were some bright spots. If they lost this game, at one point it looked like Alex Grinch might be fired this week. Maybe Lincoln Riley wouldn't do that, but at one point it looked like, oh my goodness, what is going on defensively? The 2 early Jaden Ott runs were bad. USC, they stayed in the game. Cal gave them an assist, and they turned it around. I just thought it would be a lot cleaner in year 2 of Lincoln Riley, and between the special teams mistakes, the mistakes on defense, and even the mistakes on offense, credit to USC for winning the game, but it's just not very clean. It's not an enjoyable watch, and it doesn't need to be. But I don't know. I just thought you started the year number 5, and right now you're still making a lot of mistakes. I expected more from this team, and they still control their destiny in the Pac-12. I don't know how many people watching this believe that they'll have a chance to win the Pac-12 title based on how they played the last 6 weeks now.
Lincoln Riley doesn't know. You guys got to talk to him after the game as I was coming down from the booth. He said he still believes that this team can win the Pac-12. What did you take from what Lincoln and some of the players had to say post-game?
Antonio Morales of The Athletic, he asked Lincoln Riley, do you believe that your defensive performances are good enough to win the Pac-12? Something along those lines, and he said absolutely. Then he went on and talked about how in the World Series the Diamondbacks had a really bad stretch, or maybe it was the Rangers, or someone had a bad stretch in baseball, and now they're playing, you would probably know, Jack, for a World Series. And a couple weeks ago, Washington didn't score an offensive touchdown against Arizona State. And he kind of defended USC's poor play by bringing up other people's poor play, which I thought was interesting. He made the case like it happens to everyone. And I guess that's how he wants to go about it, but he said he still believes, and seems like the locker room believes. I'll believe it when USC plays a little bit better, and I don't think that's totally unfair.
Well, they've got to go through Oregon, of course, Washington. Oregon beat Utah in Salt Lake City, beating Utah for the first time at home with fans in the stands since 2018. It was 35-3, a team that USC allowed a season-high point total to last week. So clearly there are better teams in the Pac-12. We'll see whether USC can live up to what Lincoln Riley is saying, but I definitely don't think the defensive performance is anywhere close to beating Washington or Oregon. If USC plays like it did today, they lose all 3 games on the rest of their schedule. I feel like that's pretty easy to say.
Certainly, and it was Cal doing things on the ground in the first half. In the second half, I thought your corners were great this year. Today, I'm not feeling very good about the corners. Jaylin Smith is a nickel safety. He made a nice play at the end of the game, but he had a few pass interferences. I don't think they covered very well. Christian Roland Wallace didn't play as well as we've seen him play. Damani Jackson with a few mistakes. I think the most frustrating thing if you're a USC fan just about the defense, it's a true freshman third-year quarterback, and he made some mistakes, but they were not afraid of your guys in coverage. They did an excellent job of not going towards Kalen Bullock, kind of taking him out on offense, and if they had a one-on-one matchup, Mendoza was hucking it to whoever was one-on-one against Roland Wallace or Jaylin Smith or Damani Jackson, and I thought this USC defense would be a little bit more fearful or feared, and Cal just said, screw that, we're attacking you, and watch out.
Yeah, I thought Mendoza did a really nice job of getting Cal to the line quickly. The way that they were moving their offense at one of the fastest paces I've ever seen was clearly confusing Alex Grinch and USC's defense. They would rush up to the line on a 3rd and 1, give the ball to Jaden Ott, and he'd just run for 50 yards, or he'd run for 65 yards, and it was working. I think USC did make some nice second half adjustments, clearly, but still, it's just not good enough for where this team wants to go. Now, if this was a 50-49 win against Washington, you're coming out and you're saying, good job for USC. They just beat a top 10 team. This is Cal. Cal was 1-3 in the Pac-12, 3-4 overall, had lost, I believe it was 7 straight games to AP top 25 opponents. They're 2-6 coming off byes under Justin Wilcox. This is a team you should beat. Now, they've clearly found a good quarterback in Fernando Mendoza, but it's not an excuse for Alex Grinch's defense to give up 49 points and do it in the way that they did. They gave up quick scores, they gave up slow scores, they gave it up to the tight end on the ground, to the quarterback run yet again, to the wide receivers who are not a very skilled group. It's one of the least talented wide receiver groups in the Pac-12. And when USC's defense is playing poorly, you need the offense to play perfect, and they're just still not at that level. They haven't played, I don't think, since the first half against Colorado, even close to the level that they played last season. The offensive line struggled again. Receivers struggled to get open. I thought Caleb Williams had what was a pretty nice game outside of a couple costly turnover-worthy plays. But I thought Caleb Williams kind of salvaged this group once again. The running backs got going in the fourth quarter. It's just not complimentary football right now. You missed that kick coming out of halftime when Dennis Lynch has 20 yards. He's literally practicing it right in front of Cal's face, lined up at the 16. You kick a ball out of bounds to start the game. There's just so many special teams, defensive and offensive errors that this team is not beating Washington playing like they did today.
You sound like me, Jack. That was a laundry list of complaints. I agree, though. Everything is totally fair, and good for USC for finishing the job and winning the game, but against better teams, that will not be enough, clearly. So I will just sound like a broken record, keep repeating myself. I agree with everything you said right there. Yes, they're still in it, but it's now like since that Arizona State game, just they haven't had a 60-minute performance all year against a good team. And Cal's not even that good of a team. They're okay, but their defense isn't great. So I guess USC scoring 50 points. I don't know. I'm just going to keep repeating myself. It hasn't been good enough this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if USC falls out of the top 25, going backwards, for a fifth or a sixth straight week. You were number 5, and then just backwards every week. There's a reason for that, and it's because the team has fallen short of expectations.
Feels like one of those games you can't fully break down. You watch it in person. There's nearly 100 points scored. The referees add one play to the start of the second half, but really it's the end of the first half. Penalties were flying galore. Big plays both ways. USC finally gets the last stop. It's a hard game to break down right here on the field as an instant reaction, which is a good thing that you, Connor, and Chris will be live tomorrow night doing tunnel vision. So you've got about 24 hours to digest this win for USC, 50-49. Do you have any thoughts before we wrap up instant analysis here from Berkeley? The last time the Trojans will be here on the schedule for probably quite some time.
Just a wacky game. We hit on it earlier. The protests at the beginning delay the game by 7 minutes, and then the teams go into the halftime locker room, but then USC is able to get one kickoff. Of course, they missed the kick right before the second half begins, so halftime, it was 20 minutes, and then USC has a kick with 1 second left. Coming out of that, they miss it, and then the third quarter starts, so it was like the shortest halftime in the history of halftimes, even though there was a 20-minute break. I hadn't seen many things like it, so crazy finish for this USC-Cal rivalry. I guess you got your money's worth if you're a USC fan and you made the weekender trip up here. I don't know how good you're feeling, but I think you were for sure entertained, and I guess maybe that's what football is all about at the end of the day, so that's a win, I guess.
I think to close it out, after the Stanford game, we're on tunnel vision, everyone's talking about how, hey, that win didn't really feel like the Stanford-USC rivalry deserved a game like that. Like, we wanted a closer game. Of course, USC was up 49-3 at halftime. I think Trojan fans would rather be there than where they sit now. This was a game that really summed up 110 years of USC-Cal football. Now, Cal has not been dominant by any stretch against USC, but it's a rivalry that deserves a big finale like this. A 50-49-point performance in Berkeley. Just craziness both ways. That's what an 110-year rivalry, or 110-game rivalry, rather, deserves. But I think USC fans would rather be all the way back before the bye against Stanford when it was a dominant performance. That's all we've got for you guys here from Berkeley. If you made the trip, hope you enjoyed it. This is the last time USC will come out here for a while, but I'm sure that USC fans will be kind of sleeping this one off for the next, maybe 48 hours, because that's what it's going to take with nearly 100 points put up on the scoreboard. Make sure you're checking out all the interviews here on Inside Troy on YouTube, all the stuff that will go up on USCfootball.com. Make sure you're a member so you can read the Peristyle and the War Room, because there will be a lot to talk about with another seemingly lackluster USC performance, but they do get the win this time. They get the stop that they couldn't get on defense for the last 2 seasons. Still a lot of questions, though, of course, for Alex Grinch's unit and Lincoln Riley's unit on the offensive side of the ball. That's all we've got for you guys, though. For Connor Morrissette, I'm Jack Smith. Thank you for watching. Check out USCfootball.com for more.